On the surface, many home care agencies look warm, friendly, and reassuring. They talk about compassion, dignity, and peace of mind. But beneath that friendly smile, there can be warning signs that most seniors completely overlook. And those overlooked signs can lead to stress, poor care, or even real harm. In this video, we're talking honestly about 5 red flags in home care agencies that don't get enough attention. These aren't obvious scams. These are the quiet warning signs that sound harmless at first until it's too late. So let's not waste time. Let's start with the first one, because this is where many people get trapped right from the beginning. The first red flag is when the agency avoids clear answers about who will actually be coming into your home. Here's how this usually sounds. You ask, "Who will be my caregiver?" And they reply with something vague like, "Oh, don't worry, all our caregivers are trained," or "We'll match you with someone suitable." That sounds comforting, but notice what's missing. There's no real name, no background, no explanation of how that match is decided. A good agency has no problem explaining exactly who they hire, how they screen them, and what kind of experience they require. A concerning agency keeps everything blurry. They may switch caregivers often without warning, or send someone new every few days. For a senior, especially someone who values routine and trust, this can feel unsettling. Your home is your personal space. The person walking through your door should never feel like a surprise guest. If an agency can't clearly explain how caregivers are selected, trained, and assigned, that's not flexibility, that's disorganization. And disorganization in home care almost always shows up later as missed visits, confusion, or care that feels rushed and impersonal. Trust your instincts here. If you feel uneasy during the conversation, that feeling matters. Now let's talk about another red flag that's often brushed off because it sounds like a small detail, but it really isn't. This one has to do with contracts and pricing. Many seniors assume that once they hear a number, that's the number, but some agencies quietly add fees in ways that aren't obvious at first. You might hear something like, "This is the hourly rate," but no one explains what happens if the caregiver stays late, or leaves early, or if there's a holiday, or if you need extra help suddenly. Then, weeks later, the bill arrives and it's higher than expected. When you ask why, the answer is buried somewhere in fine print you were never clearly walked through. A trustworthy agency takes time to explain costs in plain language. They encourage questions. They don't rush you to sign. A risky agency pressures you with phrases like, "This offer is only available now," or "Most families don't ask about that." That pressure is a signal to slow down, not speed up. Money stress can quickly turn what should be supportive care into a source of anxiety. And at this stage of life, peace of mind is priceless. You deserve to understand exactly what you're paying for without feeling embarrassed for asking. Here's another subtle warning sign, and this one is easy to miss because it's wrapped in politeness. Pay attention to how the agency listens to you, not how nicely they talk, but how well they listen. Do they ask about your routines, your preferences, your health history, your comfort level? Or do they rush through the conversation and steer it back to their standard package? When an agency treats everyone the same, that might sound efficient, but care should never be one size fits all. Maybe you like quiet mornings. Maybe you value independence and only need light help. Maybe you don't want a stranger reorganizing your kitchen or speaking over you. These details matter. An agency that doesn't ask or doesn't seem to care may not respect them later either. Around this point, if what you're hearing is helpful so far, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel, not because it helps us, but because it helps you. It makes sure you keep getting honest, practical guidance that protects your independence and your peace of mind as you navigate important decisions like this. As we continue, keep this idea in mind. The biggest red flags are rarely loud or dramatic. They're quiet. They feel like little compromises, and those small compromises are often what lead to big regrets later. With that thought sitting with you, let's keep moving forward together and look more closely at the signs most people never think to question.
There's another red flag that hides behind reassuring words like flexibility and "we'll handle it," and it sounds harmless at first, but it causes a lot of frustration later on. This red flag shows up when an agency takes full control but gives you very little say in how things are actually done. Here's what I mean. Some agencies proudly say, "You don't have to worry about a thing. We manage everything." That sounds wonderful, especially if you're tired or already dealing with enough in life. But then you notice something. Caregivers arrive at different times than expected. Tasks you specifically asked for are skipped. Things you never wanted done are suddenly happening in your home. And when you speak up, you're told, "That's just how our system works." Care should work around your life, not the other way around. A good agency sees you as the decision maker. A concerning one treats you like a schedule slot. If adjustments are always brushed off, or if your preferences are treated like inconveniences, that's a serious warning sign. You're not being difficult for wanting your care done your way. This is your home, your routine, and your dignity. Now let's move into another red flag that many seniors overlook because it feels uncomfortable to question. It has to do with supervision and accountability, or more accurately, the lack of it. Ask yourself this: if something goes wrong, who do you talk to, and how quickly do they respond? Some agencies assign a caregiver and then almost disappear. Calls go unanswered, messages are returned days later. Concerns are acknowledged politely, but nothing really changes. Reliable agencies check in regularly, they follow up, they ask how things are going even when you don't complain. Agencies that don't do this often rely on the fact that seniors are polite and patient. Many older adults don't want to cause trouble, so they stay quiet, hoping things will improve. Sadly, silence is often mistaken for satisfaction. You should never feel like you're bothering someone by speaking up about your own care. If an agency seems hard to reach before you've even signed a contract, that usually doesn't improve afterward. Consistent communication isn't a luxury in home care, it's a necessity. There's another subtle issue that deserves attention, and this one often reveals itself in small conversations rather than official paperwork. Listen closely to how the agency talks about their caregivers. Do they sound proud and respectful, or do they sound rushed and dismissive? When an agency treats caregivers like interchangeable parts, that attitude trickles down to the care you receive. Overworked, under-supported caregivers may be kind people, but they're stretched thin. They may arrive tired, distracted, or rushed, and while that's not their fault, it directly affects your experience. Agencies that invest in their caregivers usually talk openly about training, support, and reasonable schedules. Agencies that avoid the topic or joke about staff shortages often struggle behind the scenes, and those struggles usually end up in your living room. One more thing to notice is how problems are handled when you raise them. Do they listen calmly and take notes, or do they become defensive and explain why it's not really an issue? A trustworthy agency sees feedback as helpful. A risky one sees it as criticism. At this stage of life, your energy is valuable. You shouldn't have to constantly follow up, remind, or chase answers. Care is supposed to reduce stress, not create more of it. And the moment it starts feeling like work to be cared for, something is off. As we move forward, remember this: red flags don't always mean an agency is bad, but they do mean you need to pause, ask more questions, and protect yourself. Feeling unsure isn't a weakness, it's wisdom. There's still one more major red flag to talk about, and it's one that affects your safety, your independence, and your peace of mind more than most people realize. Let's keep going and take a closer look at that.
As we come to the last red flag, this one often surprises people the most because it hides behind friendly smiles and comforting promises. It has to do with how an agency handles emergencies, changes, and the unexpected moments that are a normal part of life as we age. Here's a simple question that reveals a lot. What happens if your caregiver doesn't show up, or if you suddenly need more help than usual? Some agencies hesitate when you ask this. They say things like, "That rarely happens," or "We'll figure something out." But rare doesn't mean never, and "we'll figure it out" isn't a plan. A reliable home care agency has clear backup systems. They can explain exactly who steps in, how quickly, and how they make sure you're not left waiting or unsafe. A risky agency relies on hope, and hope is not something you want to depend on when you need help getting out of bed, taking medication, or simply feeling secure in your own home. Another part of this red flag shows up when agencies resist change. Needs change over time, that's normal. You may start with light assistance and later need more support. An agency that truly respects seniors prepares for that. They talk openly about reassessments and adjustments. Agencies that avoid the topic or make changes feel like a burden may not be equipped to support you long term. Now, let's take a quiet moment and look at the bigger picture. Across everything we've talked about today, there's a common thread. The most overlooked red flags are not about one bad moment. They're about patterns, vague answers, poor communication, pressure instead of patience, control instead of collaboration. When these patterns show up early, they almost always grow stronger with time. The good news is this: you are not powerless here. Asking questions is not being difficult. Wanting clarity is not being demanding. And expecting respect is not asking for too much. You've spent a lifetime making decisions, caring for others, and building your independence. Choosing the right home care agency is simply an extension of that wisdom. If you take nothing else from this video, remember this: the right agency will never make you feel rushed, ignored, or small. They will make you feel heard, supported, and safe. That's not a bonus, that's the baseline. If you've had an experience with home care, good or bad, consider sharing it in the comments. Your story could help someone else avoid a painful mistake or feel less alone in their situation. These conversations matter, and your voice matters. If this video gave you clarity or confidence, go ahead and like it and subscribe to the channel. We're here to talk honestly about aging, independence, and making smart choices without fear or pressure. There's a lot of confusing information out there, and you deserve guidance that respects you. And finally, remember this: aging doesn't mean giving up control. It means choosing support that honors who you are. Take your time, trust your instincts, and don't settle for care that feels wrong just because it's convenient. Here's to staying informed, staying independent, and living well at every stage of life.